The way the CIA started was that myself, Theo, and a couple of other architects just walked one day into year 3, Unilike Architecture, and that's how we just engaged their interest. So yes, we do. But whether we can come informally like that, I think that is not really interesting. I think we achieve more by providing these Fab Labs where you can come experiment with different things. Because the Fab Labs is not just architecture. We've done on spoken word poetry, cooking, sounds strange, yes. Visual storytelling, basically images to tell a story. And then we've done something on architecture where we take a piece of music and translate what we hear into form. So it's just different ways to provide expression through performance and visual arts.
An idea, but they now encountered challenges that didn't allow that to go according to their plan. What has also allowed this to happen, goes to what you were saying. It's like I was able to dictate this project from the beginning to the end when we got to the 3rd iteration. First iteration was that, we want to, actually the first iteration was back in 2013 when they had approached us and they had been given this land and it was quite grand. They wanted an event center, they wanted a mosque, and they wanted to maximize the land. Without visiting the site, we came up with a proposal. They received it quite well, but I think they weren't ready at the time. By that time, this place wasn't really that well developed. So they now came back to us a few years later, back in 2017, that, can we scale down on the idea, on the brief, and just do a mosque?
I was going to mention, and I'm glad you mentioned Nigerian examples, because I was going to mention the foreign example to what you were saying before. I'm sure everybody knows Pig Engels, the Netherlands guy. There's this documentary on Netflix about him. Apparently, one of the first projects he did, I think, just before he turned 30, thereabout. Now, I know the contexts are very different. It's the Netherlands, it's way more developed. But the situation is kind of similar. He didn't have a lot of experience. He wasn't a big architect that people knew or whatever. But the guy, he downed it and he went and he was like, look, this is what I'm going to do, this is what it's going to cost, and it's going to work. And the developer client that he was doing this for was stunned, basically. Like, this guy, a small boy like this, is saying this thing, and he gave him the opportunity. So it kind of goes back to what you were saying about arrogance, but I would say confidence. You have to be able to confidently convey your ideas.
What I'm saying, for example, what I did was, the original concept was to have like the ablution, because I don't know, if there are any Muslims here, there are lots of masjids that you go to, that has the praying area, the praying hall, and it has the ablution area attached to it, and then the conveniences attached to it. That was something that I felt had to be extracted.
And if you had other spaces attached to it, I can easily see that. But for me, not being a Muslim, I was just trying to, educate myself based on you as the architect and your team.
For something that they had supposedly moved to site, I was confused. I'm not. That's what I. Because like in my head, I was like, "What's your plan? What is this?" And he didn't take it because he was really pressed about it and really wanted it done. So he did.
I wanted this building to be very, to be very simple, for lack of a better word. Because I felt like if I were to try and be too fancy, it probably would lose its realness.
I think there are 2 levels of decoration I'm talking about. The decoration is in terms of like how the decoration, you can apply it, but it becomes part of something. Yeah, the decoration of the ceiling is part of the ceiling. It's not just applied, it's become part of the ceiling. You look at it.
Then the subsequent suggestion was the fact that we could actually have brought the screen blocks and put them behind the generator just after the gatehouse.
Which I told him about.
Yes.
My take on this project is there are buildings everywhere. We live inside some, we walk around them, small, big, but The fact is just that there are so little with good architecture in it.
So generally, what I like about the building mostly is the exterior part, the form, the landscape, and all.
One thing that kept coming to my mind when we were talking out there and was trying to force people to critique the building was that the building was made for a lot of people, and not just one person in particular. So if you think about it as a building that was made for you, then you'll probably see a few things you don't like because those are things that are particular to you and your taste. But if you think about it as a space for so many different people who have different likes and different needs, I mean, as long as the building is functional for what it's supposed to be, everything else can and maybe will be or not be added on to the building. But I think it's beautiful for people to be able to come in and say, oh, I like this, or maybe I would have done this way, but to remember that it's for a whole lot of people, so it's good enough if everybody that comes in sees something that they like and that they love and that keeps them coming back.
How building this great exists, and I don't know about it because I'm studying architecture, and I've come here to learn more about architecture in Nigeria, and I actually just think it's amazing, and thank you CIA for the opportunity to come and learn more about. Thank you for the opportunity to come and learn more about the design drivers and the community behind it and the thinking behind it, and also to critique it and learn why certain decisions were made.
I saw the images and we were talking about it. I went from doubt to awe to appreciating craft, because I realize now what important craft is. But yeah.
I said the attention to the user is what I appreciate the most. That's what I appreciate the most. I feel like the steps you take to reach a place of total submission, I feel like was done architecturally, and I appreciate that a lot. The changing materials, you taking off your shoes on a harder surface, makes you appreciate the surface more, and then entering into a smoother one. Those kind of little transitions I really appreciate a lot.
I think it's definitely an interesting thing. It's different. It's different enough to evoke reaction and evoke criticism. I like this, I don't like this. I think it's just the beauty of it. The fact that it's almost not like anything else you see around. And it's also an opportunity to start some of this conversation and say, oh, like you said, it's experimental for a lot of things. And it's opportunity to learn and say, oh, this works, or this doesn't work, this could be done better and all of that. So I think we definitely need to have buildings like these that push boundaries of what is the normal.
Like you said, we wanted a space that is that when worshippers come, they feel relaxed. We wanted everything almost in its natural form. I've seen a building made with laterite before. They use hydroform bricks in Warri. When we went to Warri one time, we saw something else. So I was wondering how this would play out like, because when I saw pictures on Instagram, I could not really fathom how it was achieved. So coming here, I've been able to experience and see how it was done.
Before we got here, they had done the ground beam for that fence wall. It had already been put in place. And then when we were doing our setting out, we observed that it was out of line. It was actually on somebody else's plot. And I didn't want to go and, because I actually told the client that, listen, this wall, because we had built it, but when we built the wall, because we sat the wall on the ground beam that was already there. But when we were now doing our setting out, we just found out it's not making any sense. It's actually on somebody else's plot. So what I said was, you know what, in case there's going to be a demolition of that wall whereby the next door or the adjoining owner decides to take back his land, the damage won't be as much as, forming new doors on this side of the fence won't be as much as having to have this attached to the wall, and then the whole wall and the building has to come down. So I now stepped back and built on our plot with a little bit of a setback, so that even if that wall moves, we still have access to enter the ancillary.
We're not businessmen at all. In that respect, when you go down that line, if you want to be a businessman, be like, I didn't eat coca. Correct. No nonsense. Do your job, collect my money, and go my way. That's the business side of architecture. And you have to be like that if you're doing big blue architecture, corporate architecture. but it's processes, and everything gets big. But if you're doing crafting, making, getting involved, imparting your soul, wanting to even maintain the building at your own cost when the building when you are handing over, as he wants to do, you cannot make money. There's no way.
I only will do as what my clients really want, because they're the ones with the money. So at the end of the day, and the power too, it's not just money, it's the power. So at the end of the day, it's also who is willing to fund. That's a very key thing. It's like who has the power to fund this kind of random, wild things that you want to do as a creative, basically.
You mentioned something about conceptualization and how while we're in school we're supposed to be taught to conceptualize first. But then, to an extent, do you think that they teach us based on the reality of what we face in Nigeria, in the sense that they've seen that they tried this and this is what happened? So why not just, I'm not saying it's right, I'm saying that could that be their defense, that they just want us to be limited to what is the reality?
For us to address this kind of dichotomy, we need to look at the way of people in the professional setting getting more engaged in the education world, even if it's just like a temporary job or something like that, to share those their experience, because those ones are more likely to experiment, they are more likely to push the boundaries with what they do. So having that kind of union where we have professional architects that have the time, because most of the academic architects, they do more of research papers, they do more of conceptualizing, just like doing all this fulfilling the university needs. So for us to kind of answer that kind of situation, we need architects that push the boundary and are ready to teach in our education system.